Welcome back to the Sustainable Packaging Show. We're going to talk about one of the biggest companies in the world and their packaging, Coca-Cola. Is it sustainable or is it not? If you learned something in the show, please subscribe. Consider subscribing, like this video. It helps us get better guests on the show to answer our question, our big question, what packaging is actually sustainable? So, overview on Coca-Cola. Let's start off. Selling in more than 200 countries, 82,500 employees, $43 billion in revenue, and there's many brands. It's not just Coca-Cola. Smart Water, Vitamin Water, Sprite. It's a whole house of brands. This was a pretty cool quote. The initial design brief in 1915, Coca-Cola wanted to create a bottle so distinct it could be recognized by touch in the dark. Think about the visionaries to create one of the great iconic brands of all time. So in today's show, we're going to talk about the packaging for their bottle. They have glass bottles and aluminum cans, but the majority of their packaging comes in 100% recycled bottle that you can see right here. It's made from rPET, recycled PET. It has a plastic label and an HDPE cap, and they put an asterisk. The 100% recycled bottle applies to the bottle, not the cap or the label. So is it sustainable or is it not? In today's show, we're going to be objective. We're going to look at the beginning of life, where it comes from. We're going to look at the end of life. We're going to think about all the considerations, and we're going to come to a conclusion through a vote. We're going to do something fun. You guys are going to vote at the end of the show in the comments to say whether or not you think Coke's packaging is sustainable and why. And the best comment is going to win a $1,000 packaging credit to my family business for sustainable packaging. So let's begin. Beginning of life of the bottle. The pros. Why is this a good thing? Why is Coke's packaging good? Using rPET, recycled PET, means you're making the blue bin recycling effective. If no one uses the recycled content, let's say we just recycle things in the blue bin, but no one turns that into new products, then that whole thing is a charade. But so by a company as big as Coke using that content, they create a demand for it to keep the recycling system active and profitable. Number two, no new content is needed to make the bottles. So if you're using virgin plastic or aluminum or any other material, you're needing to extract raw materials to make these bottles. By using recycled PET, no new material is needed. That's definitely a plus. Number three, you're giving a productive second life to plastics versus pollution or versus landfill. If there's nowhere for them to go into new products, where are they going to end up? They're going to end up being polluted, creating microplastics, or they're going to end up in the landfill. We don't want that to happen. So those are all the pros. The cons at the beginning of life is the energy to collect and shred that plastic, right? If you think about all the energy associated with collecting the plastics, processing it in the MRF, shredding it, pelletizing it, shipping it, there's an energy cost there that should be recognized. At the end of life, what are the pros? It's easily recyclable. So not only is it made from recycled content, but the bottle, the PET bottle, is easily recyclable. Unlike, let's say, flexible packaging, people throw the chasing arrows on it, but it's very difficult, sometimes impossible to recycle. This is easily recyclable. Number two, it's made out of clear PET, which is a highly desirable material, right? Recycling centers are businesses. They take material in, they sell it. If the material has a high value, there's a better chance of it actually turning into another product. Clear PET is highly valuable. The cons at the end of life, massive plastic pollution. And that's really where Coke is under fire, and other companies that are using plastic are under fire, especially Coke. You see all sorts of marketing, all sorts of campaigns. Coca-Cola, is this yours? Famous picture. You see this scuba diver holding the bottle. You see Coke in streams and rivers. And you got to ask yourself, what's going on? Is Coke being responsible? Are they doing their part? Let's take a look at this chart. Producing plastic waste, how some of the biggest household names compare. Coca-Cola is at the top of that list. 200,000 bottles per minute, if you were to quantify it. 3 million tons of plastic per year that they are producing. Now, some of it's recycled, right? And some of it is not. And I think there's a lot of skepticism today about recycling, right? You hear stats, 9% of plastics are recycled. I've actually heard it as low. There's a new Greenpeace study, I believe from 2022. 5% of plastics are recycled. So hold on a minute. You guys say they're recyclable. You put a chasing arrows, but are they actually recycled? So people are beginning to become skeptical if there's actually actually something to the recycling, or if it is something that doesn't actually have the benefit that we think. Important stat, though, to be balanced and share all perspectives here. According to the US EPA, the recycling rates of PET bottles and jars was 29.1% in 2018. So when we say plastics are not recycled, or plastics are only recycled at low rates, which plastics are we talking about? Are we talking about injection molded plastics and flexibles? We know flexibles have a low rate. Which resin, 1 through 7, are we talking about? So when you talk about PET bottles, the rate is higher, but still 29.1 is not that high. There's still a lot that's either going to landfill or that is being polluted. So Coca-Cola, I think you have to ask yourself the question, are they simply under fire because they're so successful? Like, would anyone care if they were selling 1 million bottles? And what could Coke actually do differently? 200,000 bottles per minute. Is there really a compostable package? Are there really other options that they could be choosing? So they're under fire for plastic pollution. And here's what Coke's CEO has to say about it. So he sort of puts a different hat on, right? He's maybe losing in the plastic pollution hat, even though they're doing everything they can. So he puts on a different hat, and here's a quote from him. What we need to do is bring down the carbon footprint. Glass and cans have much higher carbon footprints than recycled plastic. The sweet spot of the waste crisis and the climate crisis is actually recycled plastic. So hold on, let's not talk about pollution. We're going to go and talk about greenhouse gases, and we have the facts to back it up. And let's look at Plastics Industry Association, just to give another source. Accounting for every step of the supply chain, plastic bottle manufacturing generates 778 total tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, significantly less than 932 from glass and from 1070 for aluminum. So I don't mean to put you guys to sleep with numbers, but if you quantify this, and this is the Plastics Industry Association, so maybe you say that's biased, but assume they are being accurate with the numbers, you can make a case. This is where I say red pill or blue pill. What are you going to look at? Are you going to look at pollution, or are you going to look at other environmental stressors like greenhouse gas emissions? If you look at other stressors like greenhouse gas emissions, the plastic bottle might be the more sustainable choice. So before we wrap this up and we get to the voting and sort of a final summary of this, let's talk about the cap and the label and what Coke's actually doing. So currently the cap is made out of HDPE. The bottle's made out of PET, as we've talked about. And when you recycle, just a quick pro tip, you should be screwing on the cap onto the bottle because that cap is too small to be recycled. There's a certain size limit where the MRFs can actually process these parts. So you would actually screw it on, and then through the recycling system, there are shredders that would, shred the packaging up. And then you have what's called a sink float tank where the PET sinks and the HDPE rises, and you'd be able to separate them. Now, in the future, Coke wants to go all PET, and they want to go with what's called a tethered cap, where the cap's actually connected to the bottle. My colleague Ed here said, I love tethered caps, not just for sustainability, but because of safety reasons, right? Children putting things in their mouths and so on and so forth. So there's an added benefit of the tethered cap. So they're saying, I'm going all PET to make it monomaterial, and we're going to go tethered to make it easier to recycle. We're doing our part. If I were Coca-Cola, that's what I would be thinking. Additionally, regarding the label, they're piloting label-less bottles in South Korea as we speak. So that's quite interesting. Removing the label adhesive can sometimes be a contaminant in the recycling system. We won't go into that detail right now, but that is a thing. So they're looking at this from every angle. So is Coke's packaging, the 100% recycled bottle, is it sustainable? The case for yes, if I were to summarize, Coke's going to say we're reducing our CO2 footprint. Don't you guys care about greenhouse gases? We're reducing our CO2 footprint. We're making our bottle as recyclable as possible. I mean, we're the biggest company in the world, or one of the biggest. We're doing everything we can. We're taking every last step. And the other side for no would be, look, that's all nice, but that's all a bunch of noise. You're producing plastic. You're producing plastic waste. You're contaminating our food streams. You're ruining our ecosystems. Look at all the pollution. You can't deny that. So there's two perspectives. Both are valid. And now I want to hear from you guys. Let's have a respectful debate in the comments because you can see both sides, right? Both sides are valid. So to vote, is Coke's packaging, this bottle, is it sustainable or not? Write yes, as well as your reason why, or write no, as well as your reason why. And we're going to give a $1,000 sustainable packaging credit to My Family Business Contempo Packaging. Frankly, we really push and innovate in sustainability. I paint this balanced approach because I want to share all perspectives and get us thinking about what is actually sustainable. But as we innovate at Contempo, it's a lot more than recycled plastic. It's bioresins and pod systems, and we're looking to really be a leading source as companies are looking to go sustainable, and that's already happening. So if you want to see more of our products, you can email us wow@contempopackaging.com. But for the purpose of this video, the goal is let's get a debate going. Let's be honest. Let's be respectful. Let's share perspectives. Let's listen. And I want to hear from you. Drop it in the comments below. Is Coke's packaging sustainable or not? Thanks as always for watching the show, and we'll see you on the next one.